The controversial truth about client assessments. Do they even matter? Welcome, everyone. This is a new style of podcast from Strength Matters. We're just going to crack straight on in. So, yeah, we're talking all about client assessments. We obviously are big fans of assessments here at Strength Matters, but it wasn't always the case. James, do you want to talk a little bit about your story in death by assessments?
It's ridiculous. Like, we all as trainers love assessments. We love getting into them and like nitty gritty, and we love data. I'm a big data geek myself. But I remember when I first learned the FMS. Now, before I go any further, I love the FMS. I love Gray. I love all the work the guys are leading and doing here. When I first loved and found the FMS, I literally went straight into the world of assessing every client that I could find, and it was death by assessment because I just did everything. I thought every session had to be an assessment. But what happened over time was I lost a lot of clients. I'd say about 40%, I think, of my clients, because they just didn't like being assessed. So it kind of opened up a whole new world for me, where I thought, this is the really good stuff I want to be doing, and I need it to basically program more effectively. However, I was driving clients away. So I kind of went away from assessments a fair bit just because of a monetary perspective for a few years. And then I went really back into it again when we came up with a new system. So it was a bit of a lesson that I learned of this idea of death by assessments. Now, it wasn't as that I didn't think assessments were important. They were. They're really important. They still are to us today. But it introduced this idea and this concept of maybe everyone shouldn't be assessed. Does that make sense?
So we sometimes, I guess that's the question. To assess or not to assess? I think some trainers, get caught up in the fact that they don't assess because perhaps they don't know what to do with the assessments afterwards, and that's another question which we'll come back to in a minute. But to assess or not to assess, what's your opinion?
Well, it's the old adage of if you're not assessing, you're just guessing, which I truly stand by that. However, over time, experience, wisdom, wiseness, old age, whatever you want to call it, I think it's now about choosing the right assessments for the right people. So we've adapted our framework a lot here to understand that. Now, in an ideal world, everyone who comes into Strength Matters will be assessed at the highest level. However, we have a very good screening process now to determine whether we should assess them or assess them at all in the first place. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of three levels we look at now. We think of this in terms of, okay, well, what type of client are they? So we have a no assessment policy. We have a mini assessment policy where they can assess in like 40 minutes and get that done. And then we have the high-end, bespoke, like ultra, be like an athlete, feel like an athlete assessments, which can take 2 to 3 weeks for some people. Yes, you heard that right, 2 to 3 weeks if they're a high-end athlete. Particularly some of the cricket athletes we're working with to try and make it at a professional level. It's really important we understand every energy system, every nuance that there's happening with their body. But I'd say now we've got a good mix of most people go for the mini assessments. So we have some form of assessments, but it's also this choice option where they can go, everyone goes for the middle. It's like the large popcorn, middle popcorn, or, small popcorn. You always go for the medium popcorn, right? It's like what we're doing when we're presenting assessment options for our clients now. So do they matter? Yes, they do. However, sometimes you've got to educate the clients on the need to be taking the assessments. And so sometimes the right option is not to assess at all, which then means, well, what do you do? It means providing programs and exercises that are safe for pretty much everybody. So it's all about exercise selection then, I think.
Yeah. So absolutely, for us, I think whether someone assesses or does the mini assessments initially, I think the ultimate goal for us is always to educate and then eventually to get them up to our full assessment system, because that gives us the most data, the most insight into their issues, if they have any, and goals, etc. And it gives us the ability to do a more personalized plan, track progress better, identify limitations, as we've said. What would you say to any trainers out there who are thinking, well, I don't see the point in assessing because I just create the same plan no matter what?
Great question. I think they're missing the bigger picture. I think you're not able to do the best of your ability. There's different types of trainers who want to do the best job for the clients at hand. So if you want to do the best job, it's best to have all the information and data in front of you. But like you said, most clients and most trainers, when they assess, they don't really know what to do with the data afterwards. So most people are using that as an excuse to save time, in my personal opinion. I may offend a few trainers out there now, but the point is, I'm trying to say, open up your eyes to a bigger picture here. Like, it's not just about just assessing, it's about having these options in front of you. So for trainers who are saying, yeah, I shouldn't assess, well, you haven't quite figured out how to do it. Maybe online, because there's a mixture of stuff online, whether you're in person, and there's now this world of hybrid training, which we talk about a lot here. It's like, well, how do you go across the whole spectrum? Well, it's because they haven't figured it out, or figured out a way to make it easy for these people, or relatable. I think that's the other thing. A lot of assessments aren't relatable to the everyday athlete or the everyday person. So if they don't understand why they're doing it, or don't understand the need for it, then they're always going to struggle to do it, and they're not going to want to do it. So it's having this mix and this balance. So yes, I think you should have assessments in your arsenal, in your toolbox. However, it's the right tool at the right time for the right person. So assessments are there for the right people at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was sort of my story initially when I became a PT. Obviously, we did in the gym, and we did partly NASM as well. And I sort of had lots of different assessments, but didn't really know. Once I'd done it, it's like, okay, well, what now? How do I use them? What do I do with them? And I didn't have a system until we started working together, and we created the Strength Matters system together. For what to do with them. I just had some, okay, well, they've done an overhead squat assessment. Well, now what? I don't really have a system to go down. Maybe the calves are tight. Maybe the hip is tight. Maybe something's overactive, something's underactive. But okay, well, might do some corrections. But then what? That's always the question. I think it's like, then what?
Exactly, and then the way we've broken it down, again, it's all about being able to relate it. I think there's that Einstein quote: if you can't explain it to a 7-year-old, you don't really understand it yourself. So the way we broke down assessments was in 2 formats. One is that we now break them down into 4 quadrants: health, movement, strength, and cardio. So the assessments fall under these 4 pillars. And then we kind of talk about the idea of a scoring system where we give them a score at the end for each of these things and then an overall score. So rather than talking, hey, we need to do an overhead squat or we need to assess your internal, external hip rotation, it doesn't really mean much to the everyday person. They don't care. Right, they just go, does my hip hurt? I want it better. It's more of a case of like, well, we give them an idea of, like, you're not moving very well, and this is why. And then we have these conversations, we start these conversations off. So it's about taking the assessments, making them into digestible, easy ways for people to understand. And that's why we always refer to health, movement, strength, and cardio. Yes, we assess nutrition, but that's a whole separate ballgame that we'll save for another time. But that's how we approach it in terms of, do we assess? So in kind of just a very quick summary, look, do assessments matter? Yes, 100% they matter. However, like a toolbox, the best toolman, the best tradesman use the right tool at the right time for the right person. So sometimes you don't need to assess. Sometimes you just need to do the mini assessments to get a bare bones minimum to write the best program for the people and do the best to your ability. And other times, the people who love data or the high-end athletes, they want to go down that line of the full assessment suite. So multiple tools for the right person at the right time, I think, is the key takeaway.
Yep, definitely. And guys, if you want to learn more about our training system that will help you save time and maximize client performance, go to strengthmatters.com/system, where you can download our full system for free. Tune in next time.